I built an app that changed education forever, coded every line myself, watched it grow to millions of users, celebrated as revenue hit $200 million. Then they took it all away. My company, my creation, my legacy. What Jackson and his executive vultures never realized was that deep in the code I had planted something they would never find until it was too late. Before I tell you how I brought down a tech empire with a single click, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from. And if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, hit that subscribe button. My story might just give you the blueprint for your comeback. My name is Drake Wilson. I grew up in Seattle in a typical middle-class family where my dad worked as a high school math teacher and my mom ran a small bookstore. From the beginning, I was obsessed with computers. While other kids played sports, I built primitive games and learned to code. My parents never really understood my passion, but supported it anyway, scraping together money for my first real computer when I was 12. After graduating with a computer science degree from Washington State, I bounced between corporate software jobs that paid the bills but crushed my soul a little more each day. I watched my innovations get buried under bureaucracy or stolen by managers who had never written a line of code. Each night, I returned to my small apartment and worked on my true passion, creating technology that could make quality education accessible to everyone. The education system was broken. I saw it firsthand through my dad, who struggled to reach students with different learning styles, while administrators pushed standardized testing. I envisioned a platform that would adapt to individual learning patterns, using algorithms to identify knowledge gaps and personalize content. Not just another flashy app, but something that could genuinely transform how people learn. I was coding late one night at a downtown Seattle coffee shop when a man in an expensive suit sat down across from me. Jackson Walsh, 35 years old, with perfectly styled hair and a smile that exuded confidence. He introduced himself as a venture capitalist interested in educational technology. "That algorithm you are working on," he said, pointing to my screen. "I have not seen anything like it. Walk me through what it does." For the next 2 hours, I explained my vision for an adaptive learning platform that would democratize education. Jackson asked intelligent questions that showed he actually understood the technical aspects, unlike most investors I had met. When we finally looked at the time, it was past midnight. "I want to fund this," Jackson said, sliding his business card across the table. $1 million in seed money. "Come to my office tomorrow, and we will draw up the paperwork." I could barely sleep that night. One moment, I was a frustrated developer with big dreams and no resources. The next, I had the chance to build something that mattered, something that could change lives. The next day, LearnSphere was born. With Jackson's funding, I rented a small office in downtown Seattle and hired 3 other developers: Sam Johnson, a back-end specialist I had worked with at my previous job; Luis Rodriguez, a brilliant UI designer; and Tara Williams, a machine learning expert who shared my passion for education. Those first 6 months were both brutal and beautiful. We worked 18-hour days, often sleeping under our desks. I personally wrote over 60,000 lines of code fine-tuning the learning algorithms until they could accurately predict where a user would struggle and adapt content accordingly. We survived on pizza and coffee, fueled by the belief that we were building something revolutionary. The first prototype exceeded even my expectations. We tested it with a small group of high school students struggling with algebra. Within 3 weeks, their test scores improved by 38%. Word spread quickly through Seattle schools, and soon we had 5,000 users, then 50,000. Tech blogs started writing about the adaptive learning platform that actually works. Every night before falling asleep, I would check our user metrics and feel a sense of purpose I had never experienced before. People were learning because of something I created. When we hit 100,000 users in our 3rd month, Jackson threw a party at his waterfront home. He raised a toast to me as the visionary who is democratizing education. I believed every word. The first warning sign came so subtly that I almost missed it. Jackson mentioned bringing in experienced business executives to help us scale. "You are the technical genius, Drake," he said. "But to reach millions of users, we need people who have built large organizations before." I agreed without hesitation. My focus was on perfecting the product, not organizational charts. When Alex Bennett joined as Chief Operating Officer, I welcomed him. 50 years old, former executive at a major tech company, Alex had the corporate experience I lacked. He spoke about taking LearnSphere global, and I was thrilled that someone with his background believed in my vision. If only I had seen what was coming next. Our first board meeting with the new executive team should have alerted me. I presented plans for our next major feature release, focusing on collaborative learning environments. Alex nodded along, then smoothly pivoted the conversation. "These features are interesting, but we need to discuss monetization strategies first," he said. "User growth is impressive, but revenue is still minimal." Jackson, who had previously championed my vision of accessibility, now nodded in agreement. Investors in our next round will expect a clear path to profitability. I reminded them that our mission was to democratize education, not maximize short-term profits. The room grew awkwardly silent until Amanda Parker, our newly hired marketing executive, spoke up. "With all due respect, Drake Noble missions do not keep the lights on. We need a business model that generates sustainable revenue." That meeting ended with no clear resolution, but something had shifted. In the following weeks, I noticed being excluded from key strategic discussions. Decisions were made and presented to me as finalized, not open for debate. The company I had founded was changing around me. LearnSphere hit 1 million users just as we closed our Series A funding round. $25 million of new investment should have been cause for celebration, but the term sheet Jackson negotiated significantly diluted my ownership. My controlling interest dropped from 51% to 34%. Jackson explained it as standard practice for this stage of growth. I trusted him and signed the papers. Meanwhile, our user base continued to explode. Schools across America were adopting LearnSphere. Teachers sent heartwarming emails about students who had finally overcome learning obstacles. This was exactly what I had dreamed of creating. Then came the pivot. During a product strategy meeting, Alex unveiled plans for a premium data insights offering aimed at corporate clients and advertisers. The platform would track student learning patterns and sell aggregated behavioral data. "This is not what LearnSphere stands for," I protested. "We promised users their data would only be used to improve their learning experience. The privacy policy gives us flexibility," Amanda countered. "Users consent to data usage for product improvement and research purposes. This qualifies." I looked to Jackson for support but found none. "The educational market alone cannot sustain our growth targets," he said. "We go where the money is." That night, I could not sleep. The company was veering away from everything I believed in. When I checked our dashboard, we had nearly 2 million active users, most of them students. The thought of exploiting their data made me physically ill. Over the next few months, my role became increasingly ceremonial. I was trotted out for media interviews as the founder and visionary, then promptly ignored when I returned to the office. New features were implemented despite my objections. Data collection intensified. During this time, revenue exploded. By our second year, LearnSphere was generating $200 million annually, primarily from data licensing deals with advertisers, textbook publishers, and college recruitment services. Our valuation soared to over $1 billion. I became paranoid. Late at night, after everyone had left the office, I began working on something no one knew about. Deep within the core architecture of LearnSphere, I built a kill switch, a hidden backdoor that would allow me to shut down critical functions if things went too far. I disguised it as routine maintenance code something no one would question if they happened to see it. Insurance, I whispered to myself as I committed the code at 3 in the morning. The tensions between the executive team and me grew more apparent. During meetings, my concerns about privacy and educational integrity were dismissed as naive. Alex began referring to me as our technical founder rather than CEO, a subtle but meaningful distinction. Jackson stopped taking my calls. We had once been friends staying up late discussing how technology could transform education. Now he avoided being alone with me. When we did speak, it was with the careful distance of estranged business partners. I learned from Sam that the board had been meeting without me. "They are talking about your role in the company going forward," he confided. "Be careful, Drake. This is getting ugly." My creation was now a data harvesting machine, generating millions in profit with education as its Trojan horse. The algorithms I designed to identify learning gaps were being repurposed to profile students for targeted advertising. Everything I stood for had been perverted for profit. What I did not know then was that the worst betrayal was still to come. The email arrived accidentally in my inbox. It was meant for Alex, not me, an oversight by someone in the legal department who had not updated the distribution list. Subject line: Post-acquisition leadership transition plan. My hands shook as I read the details. Prism Capital was offering $1 billion to acquire LearnSphere. The document outlined a leadership restructuring that would take place immediately after closing. My role would be eliminated with Alex assuming the title of CEO. Jackson and the board had already approved the plan. They were going to fire me from my own company. I printed the email and walked straight to Jackson's office. He was with Alex, both looking up in surprise. As I entered without knocking, I tossed the papers onto the desk. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the rage building inside me. Jackson glanced at the document, then exchanged a look with Alex. "Drake, you need to understand how businesses at this scale operate. Answer the question I demanded." Alex straightened his tie. "Since the Series A funding, your technical skills are valuable, but your vision for the company is too limited. LearnSphere has outgrown you." The candor of his betrayal stunned me. "Outgrown me? I built this company from nothing." "You built a product," Jackson corrected. "We built a business. There is a difference." The board vote was unanimous, Alex added. "This transition is happening with or without your cooperation. We hope to manage this gracefully, but now that you know, we will need to accelerate the timeline." Security was waiting for me when I returned to my office. 2 guards I had never seen before. My personal items had already been packed into a cardboard box. My key card was deactivated as I watched. Within 15 minutes, I was escorted from the building that housed the company I had founded. That night, the press release went out. LearnSphere announces founder Drake Wilson will be stepping away to pursue other interests. No mention of the acquisition, no acknowledgement of my forced removal, just corporate doublespeak erasing my contribution. The next morning, I discovered they had altered my employment contract retroactively. The legal department had inserted clauses claiming full company ownership of all code and intellectual property dated back to our founding. The kill switch was now my only leverage, and they had no idea it existed. For 2 weeks, I barely left my apartment. Friends called, but I let their messages go unanswered. Sam tried to visit, but I could see the fear in his eyes. Being associated with me could cost him his job. I told him to go back to work and not worry about me. I might have remained in that depressed state indefinitely if not for the interview. Jackson and Alex appeared on Tech Daily discussing LearnSphere's meteoric rise. The interviewer asked about the technology that made the platform so effective. Jackson smiled confidently into the camera. "The core adaptive learning algorithm, I personally coded much of that during our early days. Drake Wilson was part of the founding team, but the revolutionary aspects were very much a group effort." It was a blatant lie. I had written every line of that algorithm myself, often while Jackson slept comfortably in his luxury condo. Something inside me snapped. Not just anger, but clarity. They had taken my company, my creation, and now they were stealing my very identity as its creator. That same day, I discovered through an old contact that LearnSphere was selling detailed learning profiles of individual students to college admissions departments and potential employers, a clear violation of privacy laws concerning minors. The data was being de-anonymized through cross-referencing techniques. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in intellectual property and tech startups. After reviewing my case, she helped me gather evidence of both the contract tampering and privacy violations. What you are describing is not just unethical but potentially illegal, she confirmed. But proving it will be difficult without internal documents. I also learned the acquisition by Prism Capital was days away from closing. Once completed, any legal action would become exponentially more complicated. Time was running out. That night, I made my decision. I would use the kill switch, but not before ensuring I had documentation of everything. If I was going down, I would not go alone. The morning I executed my plan started like any other. I made coffee, checked the news, and powered up my laptop. The difference was that today, I would bring down a $200 million company with a few keystrokes. The kill switch was designed to be untraceable. It would initiate a cascading shutdown of core database functions while appearing to be a catastrophic system failure. More importantly, it would lock out all administrative access, preventing quick fixes. I took a deep breath and entered the command sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then my phone began buzzing with notifications. LearnSphere was down globally. 2 million users suddenly could not access the platform. The company's stock, which had begun trading after the Series A, plummeted 70% within hours. The first call came from Alex, then Jackson. I ignored them both. Instead, I anonymously sent carefully prepared documentation to 5 major tech journalists detailing the privacy violations involving student data. By afternoon, regulatory agencies announced investigations into LearnSphere's data practices. The chaos was complete. News outlets reported that the company might never recover from the combined technical failure and regulatory scrutiny. The Prism Capital acquisition was put on indefinite hold. I felt conflicted watching it unfold. LearnSphere had been my dream, my creation. Destroying it brought no joy. But seeing Jackson and Alex scrambling in panic interviews, unable to explain what had happened, did provide a certain satisfaction. 3 days later, their legal team figured it out. I received a cease and desist letter threatening criminal charges for corporate sabotage. They knew I was behind the shutdown, but could not prove how I had done it. My lawyer advised caution, but reminded me of our counter-evidence regarding their contract tampering and privacy violations. What followed was 6 months of legal warfare. They had more resources, but I had the truth and increasingly public opinion. As the full story emerged through depositions and leaked documents, my reputation began to recover. Former employees came forward confirming how the company had pivoted from educational mission to data harvesting. The settlement, when it finally came, acknowledged my intellectual property rights to the core algorithms. I received no monetary compensation, but avoided criminal charges. Most importantly, I retained the right to use my own technology in future ventures. LearnSphere never fully recovered. The technical issues were eventually resolved, but the privacy scandals and broken trust proved fatal. Within a year, the company was acquired by a larger tech firm for pennies on the dollar and absorbed into their existing products. Jackson and Alex both left the tech industry, their reputations tarnished. Last I heard, Jackson was trying to rebuild his venture capital career in Europe, far from the Silicon Valley circles that had once embraced him. As for me, the experience changed everything. The betrayal left deep scars that took years to heal. I struggled with trust issues, particularly in professional relationships. For months, I questioned whether I should remain in tech at all. The turning point came when I started mentoring young developers at a local coding bootcamp. Teaching others helped me reconnect with why I fell in love with technology in the first place: its power to solve real problems and improve lives. 2 years after LearnSphere's collapse, I founded a new educational platform called OpenLearn. This time, I structured everything differently. The company was established as a public benefit corporation with a legal obligation to balance profit with social impact. Our privacy policy was radically transparent, written in plain language that a middle schooler could understand. Most importantly, I maintained controlling interest and built a board that shared my values. OpenLearn grew more slowly than LearnSphere had, but on a stronger foundation. We charged schools and districts a fair subscription fee rather than monetizing student data. When we reached 1 million users in our third year, we celebrated not just the growth, but the fact that we had achieved it ethically. The lessons from my LearnSphere experience shaped everything about how I built the new company. I learned to trust my instincts when something feels wrong, regardless of who is telling me otherwise. I recognize that true innovation needs protection from those who would exploit it for short-term gain. Most importantly, I discovered that losing everything can sometimes be the beginning of building something better. Today, OpenLearn serves 5 million students worldwide. Our team has grown to over 100 people who share a genuine commitment to improving education. My role now includes mentoring other founders, helping them avoid the pitfalls I experienced. Looking back, I realized that what Jackson and Alex never understood was that the true value of LearnSphere was not its revenue potential, but its impact on real people. By reducing it to a data harvesting tool, they destroyed what made it special in the first place. Have you ever had to rebuild after losing something you poured your heart into? If this story resonated with you, hit the like button and share it with someone who might need to hear that setbacks can lead to comebacks. Subscribe for more real-life stories about standing up for what you believe in, even when it costs you everything. And drop a comment telling me about a time when you had to start over. Sometimes our greatest innovations come after our biggest failures. Thank you for listening. And remember that the most powerful code you will ever write is the one that stays true to your values.